Spotlight, please.
Welcome back to another Spotlight. Today I'm joined by Ken. We're here to have a chat with you about the Begode Falcon.
Begode's new wheel, 25 kilos, 900 watt hours, small suspension wheel.
High discharge 50S battery cells, 1500 watt motor. Makes for a torquey little 100 volt wheel with 60mm suspension travel.
A little less travel than the bigger wheels, but it is a much smaller wheel.
And it's very light comparatively to other suspension wheels. Before we get too far into the Spotlight, let's have a chat about how the Begode Falcon first arrived to us and our impressions.
So when it came out of the box, right now it's looking a bit different. It used to have much more encompassing pads, and also came with a much different tyre.
Yep, street tyre.
The street tyre.
Which has a totally different profile than the tyre that we've put on it and that we've been riding since the last few days.
Yeah, personally, I actually really love the street tyre, but I know Scott and Steve, they just hated it.
When I first got it out of the box, we had the stock pads on and the street tyre. It was great, just like rolling around in the warehouse. Really easy to turn, loving it. We got the jump out, we were doing some little jumps on it, good fun. But the next day when we really went out and started testing it, that's when we started to notice some issues. The stock pads were digging into your heel and your shins in different spots. They weren't quite optimal for every rider. And the street tyre we just sort of found really nice at slow speeds, but as you start to pick up speed, you're travelling along bikeways and so forth, it really starts to introduce some wobbles when trying to do sort of wide turns. Well, add in a couple of dips and swerves and turns, and yeah, a little bit sketchy at above 30k.
So then they gave it to me to chuck on the knobby tyre, some heavier springs, and then they took off the stock pads and then put on the BD3 adjustable pads.
And that seriously changed the way it rode.
So to pull it apart, it's a bit of a job. There's a decent amount of screws compared to some wheels. And that's just because of most of the components on the Falcon are individual components, like the battery packs. It's 4 separate packs instead of just 2 big sides. It's one of the types of wheels where you do have to pull it quite apart just to get to the tyre. It's not so much like the Master or the T4 where you can sort of do very minimal work and still get that tyre right out.
Yep. So our first couple of days of riding the Falcon in its stock condition with the street tyre and the pads the way they were, and the original spring, we had some concerns that it wasn't going to be a good wheel for everybody. The wobbles, the lack of being able to carve, took away a lot of its potential, we felt. We were pretty excited to find how it changed after Ken made those adjustments for us, putting in the black, heavier springs for riders that are over 90 kilos, adding in the adjustable pads, and the all-terrain tyre just completely changed the way it manoeuvred. All of a sudden it went from being a wheel that we were like, oh, to being like, oh, this is such a fun little wheel. So
just really opened it up for you.
That's it. Like in the warehouse at slow speeds, I really thought that street tyre was great. And then everything about our testing completely changed my mind after that. We can carve on it. Now we can go off-roading, do jumps, and the pads obviously in combination with that tyre has all of a sudden allowed you to customize them to where your feet sit and how you want to lean and accelerate on it. So yeah, like it's just become such a fun, lightweight little playful wheel now.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting where it stands. And I've been getting a few questions about where it compares to the S16 Pro, because they both sit in that lighter weight suspension wheel category. How have you, because I haven't been taking it up to the speeds that you have been. I've just been mostly messing around in here. But you've actually taken it up to like the bike trails and stuff, off-roading a bit, and all that fun stuff. So yeah, how do you think it compare?
Well, I guess our shop demo is a S16 Pro, so they're both sporting 50S battery cells, but it is an 84 volt system, while the Falcon is 100 volt, and also it's got the smaller tyre, and I think the combination between the smaller diameter tyre and the 100 volt system really allows you to accelerate fast, and it just has this nimbleness that we don't experience with the S16. It's sort of like the S16 is a bit more stable. It just feels a bit more solid when you're riding it, but it's a bit more sluggish on the takeoff. So I'm not sure if it's purely down to that extra torque on the smaller tyre and the 100 volt, but when we accelerate on this Falcon, it just zooms.
Yeah.
And it feels really responsive.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because the S16 Pro sort of sits somewhere like in terms of wheels that are similar in how it accelerates and how easy it is to control. I would say it's pretty comparable to like the MSP RS or even the 18XL. Like it's that sort of smaller wheel. But this goes one step even smaller, where it's also quite thin because of the 900 watt hour pack. It's a pretty small profile.
Yeah, they've kept it really compact, and I think that just it means that you really take off on it. But I do find, unlike some of the other wheels that are a bit heavier, it doesn't quite have that same stability. So you really do feel the bumps and the way the wheel moves around while you're sort of going, off road and over bumpy areas and whatnot. But it's super responsive. So you can easily like bounce out of them. It's playful, but yeah, sitting up to speeds of 40k an hour, it's sort of, you can feel the odd little bump and wobble. But yeah, it's just so much more fun in that lower speed category, like 30k an hour and below, just so much more fun.
Yeah, it sounds like it goes faster than what you would probably want to do on it.
Yeah, I think it can go faster than what I would feel comfortable riding it at. So who do we think the Begode Falcon is for? I personally think it could be a great commuter. It wasn't my first thought, but the fact that it's got a functional trolley handle, it's really lightweight. You can lift it up with just one arm. So really easy to move it, compact, small enough to fit under your desk and everywhere else. Versatile enough with the off-road all-terrain tyre to be able to sort of travel on wonky footpaths, ride off on grass and dirt, but still be nimble enough to be able to ride in the city and to work and whatever else. But I can also see it just being a fun little wheel for like exploring trails and stuff. It's not quite as stable or as powerful as your V14s and your Patterns, which are probably better equipped to handle the serious off-roading. But for a little bit of fun here and there, I think this could be an optimal wheel for.
I also think another group of riders that might be interested in this are the young riders, the kids or young teens.
Exactly.
Just because of those younger riders, we've been seeing some of those riders like getting pretty skilled, doing some pretty crazy stuff on the small wheels. But now they actually have access to a very small suspension wheel.
The first of its kind, a small suspension wheel.
Yeah, that can actually fit much smaller riders.
Yeah, I was watching Zoe ride the other day, and she after 2 or 3 tries, she managed to get the feel for how to mount it, and then she was off and away and loving it. So, and it looked proportionately
it looked like the right
wheel
size
for a kid, right? Because it's not like it doesn't look like a huge wheel with a little kid just sort of sitting up over it. So so the Falcon definitely could be a good wheel for children.
Yeah.
summary, we think the Begode Falcon is going to be a really popular wheel here in Australia. If you want to secure one, jump onto our website and place a pre-order. Or if you're in the Brisbane area, feel free to arrange or pop by our shop and come and try a Falcon out for yourself. So that brings us to the end of the Begode Falcon Spotlight. If you've got any questions or comments, leave them in the video below. Otherwise, give us a thumbs up and subscribe because we've got a bunch more content coming to the channel soon. Bye for now, see you on the next one.